And we are live. Yo, what's up, everyone? And welcome to episode 2 of Coffee and Perspective with Jace. I have the great pleasure to bring you today my second guest. He's a very dear friend, and I can proudly say he's straight off the West End in London. Please welcome my good friend, Mr. Richard Vorster.
Hello.
Richard, thank you so much for joining me on my second episode. And before we get going, I know a lot about you, but probably most of the people that will watch won't know who you are and what you do. So please give us a brief intro of you, where you're from, what you do currently, and we'll get into it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so the way that I know Jace is we are both from South Africa. So I was born and raised there on a farm in South Africa. But once I'd gone to a big city to go to school, I realized that my passion was performing. When I was about 14, I came to London on a holiday and I watched my first West End show, and I was completely just obsessed with the idea of wanting to be on the West End. And I had some talent. I was able to sing, and I started going to dance classes. And then once I'd finished school, I actually started studying accounting.
I remember
that, but I did that for 2 years, and then even though I'd started what was supposed to be like a stable qualification, I knew in my heart that it was not what I wanted to do with my life. So I decided to come to London on another holiday. But while I was here on holiday, I auditioned for drama school. And so that's how I ended up.
This was, just to recall my memory, this was Mount View. Yeah,
Mount View. That's correct. Yes. So it's a musical theatre. Well, it actually does acting, musical theatre, and technical theatre in London. And I auditioned for Mount View. I got a place. I was very, very fortunate to get some funding, and that is what brought me over to where I am now. And since I graduated, I've sort of continued to pursue a career as a performer in musical theatre. And I'm very, very proud of the life that I've kind of made for myself here in London.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like you said, we've known each other for some time. Where we actually started, Richard was at Grey High in PE. And I remember my first out of school production was Showtime.
That's correct.
And that is where Richard and myself initially met.
Yes.
Super, super talented. For those of you who aren't in the musical theater space, you can call it a triple threat, where you can sing, act, and dance pretty well. And I always saw Richard as at that time as a triple threat. Obviously, during his studies, am I correct in saying that you specialized a little bit more in the acting side, or was that?
Yeah, that would be correct. I think sort of at the time, considering where we were at that time, I was very lucky to be sort of capable in all three disciplines. But I think since I've studied, I've realized that even though I love dancing, I think there are people who are more naturally suited to dancing. That's not to say I can't, but it's just to say that I think it's maybe not my top skill. Yeah. So I would say, and then also the school that I went to was very much focused on acting.
On the acting.
So different drama schools have different focuses. Some have amazing singers, some have amazing actors, some have amazing dancers, and a lot do produce people who can do all three. But generally, the focus of the training is somewhere specific.
So when you mentioned that you were studying accounting, then you start to get a more, I love the stable job. Yeah. I love that term, because actually in the previous podcast I was chatting about that there is no such thing really as a stable job nowadays. So but even more so in our field of entertainment, that whether it be film or stage or commercials or whatever, that you working from job to job, that's just the reality of it. And even those, if you're doing rent on Broadway for 10 years, like 99% of the time, you're not going to be doing the full 10 years on Broadway.
No ways.
So we've got a very loop to loop, job to job type of, that's why there's that struggling musician saying, you're struggling
and I think
actor.
And I think there are opportunities to get some form of stability, but very often those opportunities come with sort of a price to pay, which is that you then are giving up your freedom, or you're traveling, or exactly. Potentially you've got to go on tour and you've got to miss your family and stuff like that. But that then gives you a year worth of employment. So I think as an actor and as a performer, we're always kind of being pulled in many different directions.
Sure. And let's say if you do manage to have a good agent or manager, or just someone that's by your side, you could get script from script, but in the end of the day, you also want to choose what's going to be right for you, and like you say, some are going to be traveling gigs, some are going to be local gigs. And then my question with the accounting, at what point did it click? I don't know, in your feeling, in your brain, where did it click? If you can remember, at what point?
I could actually remember the exact moment.
You remember the exact moment where you went, screw this.
This is not it. I remember the exact moment. I was in a tutorial for my accounting degree, and the tutor, who was very, very good at her job, very, very great at explaining things. And she said this one phrase. She said, the thing is, if you want to become a CA, a chartered accountant, you really have to have a passion for accounting. You really have to develop, you've got to love accounting. And in that moment, I was like, I know that I can't do this.
Love balancing books and...
The thing is, I was perfectly capable of it. I was, the reason I started studying accounting was because when I was in high school, it was something that I was naturally very good at. Which is why I chose it as what I was going to study. I think, ironically, now as a 33-year-old guy, I think if I could go back and if I could do it any other way, I would finish my degree, which is an interesting thought, but that's also just, I think that's more because I like finishing things,
but
than me necessarily wanting to.
That's what I was going to say.
Be an accountant.
That's what I was going to say. So is it because because if you start something, you want to finish it, and you're like, oh, damn, I should have just finished what I started with,
Yeah.
But then just in my brain listening to it, on the other hand, let's say you finished it and you had that certificate, that piece of paper.
Yeah.
That then would have been your plan B, your backup plan.
Yeah.
So throughout your journey, and I know quite a bit of your journey already, would have there probably been a point that you would have resorted to that plan B?
Okay, so one of the things that connects with me always wanting to finish everything I've started is me being very stubborn, right? So I'm like, no, if I've started this, I really want to finish it. Yeah. But that also applies to me wanting to be a professional actor. So I think one of the reasons that I'm still a professional actor is that I am stubborn and I was not going to give up. Yeah. Even though, and I'm sure we'll come to this later, even though there were times when I very nearly did. But so the reason that the way this answers your question is I don't think I would have given up, but I think I would have been able to use that piece of paper, that qualification, so that between acting work, I had
some
different ways. Different ways of making money, because I think, and this is something that kind of came to light for me as I grew older, was that the ways that you make money between your acting jobs, as a lot of people have to do, that it seems fine when you're 21 and you're an usher, and you're not making that much money, but it's fine because you're auditioning, you're free, you're all of that stuff. Then and that's not to say there's anything wrong with being an usher when you're 33, but I just felt like every time I finished an acting job and came back to working my sort of other job, I was always in the same place. I was always starting again as an usher, and I've managed to actually develop my skill set so that that's not the case anymore. I now do other things. I still work in theatre. I still work on a 0-hour contract so that I can come and go. But I've managed to very slowly grow my sort of side career as well. Whereas I think if I'd had a degree as an accountant, I think I could have been earning much better money between acting jobs right from the very start.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, I've also said this before about no matter what profession you're in, but particularly in the entertainment field, where you do have to go for casting, you do have to keep trying, and it's going to be a guarantee. You need to try get, like they say, get those several means of income, get those revenue streams coming in, even if it's small, even if it is ushering, or even if it is working like an admin position somewhere, or waitering, or whatever might do. But now, of course, you're just speaking of, you could have, instead of doing the previously mentioned, you could have then just done accounting in between.
Exactly. Yeah. And I could have made myself useful like that. Who's to know that would have worked? Because, some accounting firms would say, well, what do you mean you want to come work here for 3 months and then you want to go off and be an actor? What do you mean you're going to need an hour off every week to go for an audition? That it might not have worked, but in my head, that's kind of one of the reasons I wish I'd had that piece of paper so that I would have known. And talking about, doing other jobs, I was doing, when I was doing School of Rock on the West End, one of the guys I was working with, I don't know if it was every week or if it was every other week, but he still had his waitering job. He'd been there for a year and a half at School of Rock, and he still kept his waitering job. He did, I don't know, I think it might have been 10 hours a week. Literally just 2 shifts, 10 hours a week, on top of his West End job.
Yeah.
And that was just so that when he finished on the West End, he had a job straight away. He didn't have to, this sort of like having several streams of income, it is really important.
Yeah. And I mean, even if it, okay, you based in the UK, so I mean, London's not cheap. Like,
no.
You need to have that supplemental form to pay the standard bills, on top of maybe what you would earn on the West End. Then your journey up until West End. We have spoken about this just in our general FaceTimes and that in the past. It's a very real thing, and it's not a right or wrong thing, but there's something called typecasting.
Yeah.
for positions or roles. Just for those who aren't maybe familiar with some of the casting processes, and particularly with typecasting, what has made it slightly difficult along the way, and this is not just for you, but this is for anyone, with regards to typecasting and going for choosing the right auditions as well to go to.
Yeah. That's such a great question, actually, because I was on the phone yesterday to my friend Alice, and her and I, it was one of my first jobs out of drama school, and I think she was not long out of drama school. She might have graduated a year before I did, but we did this job together, and it was pantomime, and we played at the age of, God, I must have been 25, and she's the same age as me, and we played Sleeping Beauty's mother and father. And so that kind of just it sums it all up, really. When I was 25, I was already bald. I had a little bit, I could grow a beard if I needed to. Yeah. But even at the age of 25, I was already being seen as a father figure. Yeah, father figure. And same for Alice. She was the mother. And that's kind of been, and we were chatting yesterday because we're now 33, and we were both saying how we feel like our careers are starting to feel like there's a bit of momentum. Yeah. Whereas the first, I graduated when I was 24, I think. And the first 5 years were really, really tough. There were certain jobs that came along, and thank goodness they did, because they didn't involve too much typecasting. Yeah. But had I been just in the industry as it was before those shows had come along, I probably wouldn't have worked for the first 5 years. Yeah. And so my struggle has been that I've always looked much older than I am. However, I actually have quite a young energy when I go into an audition. So my headshot, I look older, and then I come into the room and my energy's quite young. So people have struggled for years and years and years to kind of see me in the older tracks. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that I'm then in the room with people who are 35 years and are 40 years old. Yeah. So, if you've got a 20-year-old female lead or 25-year-old female lead, and you've got the option of casting a 30-year-old as her father or a 40-year-old, and they're both equally talented, they both can sing the songs, they both can act the scenes, they're both good, even I would naturally cast the 40-year-old.
And they look small, the role, yeah.
Yeah, so I think from a typecasting point of view, it's my career. What I felt like is I'm always waiting for myself to grow into my own casting bracket. Yeah. And I feel like I now am starting to I'm starting to be seen for things, but now it's weird because I'm now auditioning for things, and I think I'm too young.
For some of them,
I'll be auditioning, Yeah, sometimes they're seeing me for old, like 45 years old. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not saying I can't look 45, but I don't feel like I look 45. So then I'm like, oh, okay, there's a bit of work to be done to make myself sort of, but I'm starting to be seen in that capacity and getting through the auditions. I've been in finals for characters that are much older than I am. And mostly to understudy, which has also been a big part of my career. And I love being an understudy, but,
and you learn a lot.
Yeah, learn so much and get loads of experience. But I still feel like I've got a few years to go before I really am able to play the roles that I'm now right to understudy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. So for those that are watching, to sum it up, it's basically going, you have talented people, and they can all be equally talented. You might think that there's a lot that goes into it from a casting director's point of view as well. So maybe there's one particular role. It needs to be a 25-year-old, let's say white male. He needs to have a more rock sounding voice. He needs to be able to, tap dance and be an incredible, ballet dancer, for example. So there's a lot of criteria that they look for. Then once they get those, maybe they go, oh, but we're actually looking for someone with, a heavier beard, or someone with not such a heavy beard. So it can get really tricky when you get told no, all those times, and you know that you're good enough, you know you can sing those parts for that, you know you can tap dance and you can do the 100 pirouettes in a row.
I mean, I can't do that, but
well,
sure.
I don't know too many people that can do that. You know you can do that, but then you still get the no because they thought Joe Soap was, you know, who was also auditioning for the part, maybe fitted it better because they liked the way he lifted the eyebrow, or you know, or maybe they just, sometimes people will just go, well, let's see the CV. But to be fair, I know nowadays people, I mean, also in jobs, it's not just in theater. When entertainment, people generally tend to not consider this, the CV is not the guard anymore. It's not like, let's see your CV. It's more like, let's see your talent. Let's see what we can do. Let's see your counting skill set, you know, balance these books. Let's see how good you are first. And then I'll look where you've worked, maybe, or where you studied, or something like that.
I think that is a fair point. I think also casting directors and directors they kind of want to give you the benefit of the doubt. So if you're in the room, they want to kind of take you at that value. I think sometimes your CV can help, but I don't think your CV helps you get a job. I think it sometimes helps you get the audition.
It can, yeah. It can help you potentially, but you know, this is we speaking theoretically, because I mean, I even know sometimes when we cast, we don't cast that often straight out of university, out of the college, and it's not but then the times that we have, it's sure they haven't got a ton of experience because they haven't had the time, because they're only 20 years old, you know, they're only 21 years old. So they haven't had the time. The only footage they've got is from like their college productions or their college shows. But when you watch their show reel, or you see them in the studio and they can bring it, it just depends. There's certain productions or certain touring casts, or you know, for what you do, where you can take a little bit of a gamble on someone that's very green. That's the term.
And the thing is, like, everybody has to start somewhere.
Everybody has to start. It's that catch-22 where they go, well, we want, in corporate business, for example, we want 5 years of experience in marketing. But then you're like, but I need that opportunity to get those five years. So who's going to give me that opportunity to get?
Who's going to give me the first? And somebody does eventually, and that's, I think,
somebody does, and that's I think that's the perseverance and the persistence. So through your leading up from grey PE schooling through to drama school, through to the amateur / semi-professional productions, aka non-paid productions for most of the time, all the way up until your studies. And then you finish your studies, you're out of college, like we were speaking about now, and you've got this dream to be on West End, or if in the States, on Broadway, or even maybe just to be part of a touring cast. Did you come to a position or a place where you were going, you double guessed yourself? So am I good enough? Is this really what I'm cut out to be doing? And should I keep pushing and keep waitering tables while I can find that next audition? Or do I just take the towel and go, I'll go back to, or I'll move, I'll, you know, move back in with parents. I will, you know, which there's nothing wrong with doing.
No, of course.
But if there was,
it's difficult to know the exact moment that happened, but I know, and we've had discussions before, and so I know it did happen for me. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier about, I was very lucky that certain jobs came along when they did, because the first couple of years out of drama school, I was doing mainly pantomimes and children's theatre, which is great fun, absolutely amazing. But the main struggle for me was that they didn't pay badly, but the jobs didn't last very long.
Short contracts.
Exactly.
So most of them are seasonal, though, aren't they?
Yeah, like so you'll have an Easter show or a Christmas show,
Yeah.
and it'll be like 6 weeks over Christmas, or maybe 7 with rehearsals.
Yeah.
And so I did quite a lot of children's theatre, and then I did, as you mentioned, like some unpaid opportunities, and it was quite interesting for me, because when you mentioned about unpaid jobs, it's like I'm very proud of the shows that I did that were unpaid. However, both times that I did an unpaid job, I came out financially so much worse off, because obviously none of your expenses stop.
Covered. Yeah.
You basically are, you're not paying in because you're not giving anybody any money, but you're not getting anything financially. You're getting loads of
you're running,
but you're not getting any,
because you still have to pay to get there. You still have to pay transport. You still have to, you still have to live.
And only for that reason, I only ever did 2 shows that were unpaid. Because I did it once, and I sort of financially struggled, but I had a job to go back to. And then the second time I did it, I didn't have a job to go back to, and financially it was too difficult. So I know a lot of people that have done unpaid jobs, and they are great opportunities. You get the chance to play roles, and you get the chance to be seen by casting directors and stuff like that. And I would have loved to have continued
and still craft your skill as you go along.
Exactly, and get that experience that people kind of look for.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't financially do it anymore. So I only ended up doing 2 shows like that. And then so that was the first couple of years out of drama school, and then I had a period of time
but still that time where you were struggling financially, you were still going, I'm young enough, I'm still pretty new in the game, so I'm not going to throw the towel in just yet.
Like, absolutely.
This the life of a performer,
and then there was a stretch of time between, so once I'd realized I couldn't keep doing shows for free, and I was still sort of like happy to do children's theatre, but the jobs just weren't coming my way. So like you said, like sometimes you get a lot of no's, and I got no after no after no after no. And as you said, self-doubt starts to come in. You think to yourself, why do I think I can do this, but these 3 people behind a desk don't seem to think that I can do this, and I really, really believe that I can. And it's like it's like you've almost got to like fake the confidence, because thinking about it now, because I've done the work that I've done, I know that I'm good enough. If that makes sense. Whereas then I didn't know that I was good enough. And
but isn't it, sorry to jump in, isn't it also as you mature in the industry, not as a person, but as you mature just within the industry, and you learn everything from like the typecasting to the potential bureaucracy and politics that could be behind anything, like with any company. Isn't it maybe also because of that, you learn to go, you get to, you select which roles you go for better, probably, because what you've already got you've got the past 7-8 years behind you of being told no, and then you walk out of it going, oh, that probably wasn't the right interview, or that wasn't the right casting, or that wasn't the right thing for me.
Yes.
But then, isn't it probably also the maturity over that time that you've gained up until now, 33 years old? You go, well, now I know what people look for. I know what I'm capable of. I know what to do.
Absolutely. And I think you've kind of summed it up brilliantly, really, is that what I see as now, like, I'm just growing into my typecasting, is actually I'm more aware of it, and I'm no longer going into auditions that I'm not right for thinking, this is my shot, because I walk into those auditions. But then I have to say this, which is, still to this day, sometimes I go in for jobs and I'm like, what a joke, like, this is completely wrong for me, I'm never gonna get this. It just couldn't be more wrong. And those are the jobs that I sometimes get. So as much as I think I'm all like aware of my casting and stuff, but I'll sometimes go into a room and I don't even know what they're looking for, really, because I don't think they're looking for something like me, but it turns out they are because they give me the job. Do you know what I mean? So, and School of Rock was one of those for me, actually, because I'd auditioned for School of Rock once before, and I thought to myself, oh, well, I'm obviously completely wrong for this. And then, yeah, I got the job. So I'd obviously not thinking how aware I am of my own casting. I obviously wasn't completely aware.
And then on that point, so you're going to probably have to correct me here. You did first a touring cast with them?
Yeah, that's correct. So
where did you
we went to Korea, South Korea. We played 3 cities in South Korea over the course of 5.5 months. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. But they cast the adults for the show from London, and the kids were cast from Australia because Australia already had a touring production. And there was some logistical thing where they had children in Australia ready to do the show, but but the adults from Australia weren't available because they were doing the show somewhere else with other kids. So it was very confusing, but basically we ended up getting cast from London to go to Korea and do the show there for a few months. And then off the back of that, when I got back to London, there was an opening in the London cast because somebody had to go and have an operation. And so, and it was the same opening, it was the same track that I had done in Korea, which is a swing track. So it's learning all of them. And I was lucky that was the role that was available, because had it been another role, they would have asked somebody else. But it was the swing track. And
5.5 months in South Korea touring. Then you get back. What was just for my time frame, what was the gap between finishing your touring cast and jumping on West End?
So we got back from Korea at the end of September 2019, and I went into the West End cast at the end of January. Great. Which was actually perfect for me because I had to go home to South Africa in November for my brother's wedding. So, I was very lucky because sometimes as actors, as you know, we often have to miss sort of like important family events because of, the producers don't.
You stuck
in a contract. And so I knew that my brother was actually my brother was brilliant in that he said to me, look, if I do it on the 9th of November, I think it was the 9th, will you be available? And I said, you know what? Yes, because I'm doing School of Rock. That finishes on the 1st of November, basically. No, 1st of October. So I'll come to South Africa middle of October through to the middle of November. So I'll take a whole month. I'll come to South Africa and I'll do, And I just told my agent that, and I was like, look, I know I'm going to miss out on auditions. I know that I'm going to miss jobs, but I'm not prepared to miss my brother's wedding for that. And because I'd just done a show, I had some savings and I was able to just do it.
Yeah, to have a bit of a break. And then just very quickly, for those who might be interested, what was your, as a first time on West End, on the London's West End, what in a nutshell, what was it like? What type of feelings did you get? What type of, now that you with the School of Rock, what personal, and I'm going to say personal because of course everyone's different journeys, but what was your personal take on your very first experience on the West End?
Well, it was an interesting one because I was taking over from someone. So I was stepping into an existing cast. I wasn't able to rehearse with these people. I didn't know them. Yeah, so that was a bit mad. But I think that kind of made it very exciting as well. The West End is like this dream that we all have. Not all of us, but like if you're in musical theatre and the West End is a dream that you might have. And it was very, very interesting because the show was the same show that we did in Korea. So
just with different people.
Just with different people. And it kind of, which is something I've suspected for a very long time. Because I think when you're 14, you think the West End is the West End because everyone must be much better than everyone else because they're on the West End. And then I think you go through drama school and you start working in the industry and you start to realize that the West End is just one place where lots of shows happen. And that doesn't make the dream of wanting to perform on the West End any less, but it does just make you
put some things into perspective now.
Yeah, it gives you a bit of perspective. It doesn't feel like
that's not the end of the rainbow.
Exactly. And also I think the danger with thinking that you have to be a certain amount of good on the West End is thinking then when you book a touring show, you think, oh well, I'm obviously not good enough to do the West End. And here I am, living proof that if you've done the touring show, you are more than capable and as capable as the people that are doing it on the West End.
Yeah,
there's really, especially today, I think, shows have such high requirements that they can't really compromise. They have to find good people to do all the productions of their shows, otherwise the show will suffer. And
to be fair, I know personally people that have done West End, and then they've gone on to do touring casts, and then they've done those same productions on cruise ships.
Yeah.
And then so it doesn't mean that one's any less than the other. It's just different circumstances, different casting, different time in your life, in your career.
Yeah, exactly. And so from that point of view, getting onto the West End was really, really magical from the point of view of it had just been a dream that I'd always wanted to achieve. So yes, I've achieved that now. Yeah. Amazing, tick. Yeah. But then also kind of, as you say, perspective, it kind of made me go, okay, cool. This is the West End. It's not the be all and end all of everything. That's not to say I don't want to perform on the West End anymore, because I think performing on the West End would give me loads of other things that have become important to me the older I've gotten. So if I performed on the West End, I would be able to live in my own flat and spend more time with my friends and not miss so many, birthdays and things like that. And
when you're on tour, when you're on tour, you're completely isolated from. Sure, you've got your touring family that you're with, whether it be land tours, whether it be cruise tours, whether it be wherever.
Yeah, absolutely,
you're not based in your city or the place where you've got you're living out of a bag. That's touring,
Yeah, exactly. And I think when you're on tour, you get given, particularly with musicals, if you're on tour with a musical, they give you your holiday weeks. They tell you, this week will be a holiday week, so we will pay you, but it will be your holiday. Whereas if you do a contract on the West End, you've got a year contract, and it's just like any other job. You choose when you're going to take your holiday.
Yeah.
So you get 4 weeks a year. And so if a really dear friend of yours is getting married, you can
able to take that leave.
Exactly. You can schedule your leave so that you can be at your dear friend's wedding. And that's the kind of creature comfort, living in my flat, being with my friends and being able to take holiday when I want to take holiday are the kind of little creature comforts that I would love to have. And that's one of the reasons I still want to keep chasing that dream of performing on the West End, because there are other things now that come with that I would love. That's not to say that I wouldn't tour, because
when I'm there next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I can come see you.
Yeah. And that's not to say I wouldn't tour, because I've seen some amazing places in the world through being involved in tours of musicals, and a lot of places that I would never have had the opportunity to see,
to go visit.
Never. And places also that weren't even on my list, places that I would never have gotten to because I wouldn't have even thought to go there. And they've been some of the most amazing places I've ever been. I think of the Philippines, like the Philippine Islands. Oh my gosh, I would never have thought to go there. And it is literally paradise. Yeah. So
touring.
So I've loved touring.
Touring brings out, I mean, it's a pro and a con, just from my personal experience as well. Like you said, you got the pros because you get to see the world. You get to see places that you possibly wouldn't have had on your, let's go travel to and spend a night or two there. And I mean, you're getting paid to travel. You're getting paid to see the world, which is luckily which we've both been able to do, and it's
Yes.
amazing. But then, like you say, I mean, we both super young still. We spring chickens, but well, I'd like to think we are. But
I think you are.
well, so are you. 33 is damn young. But as we go along, even in, especially after doing tour, I found you do value the simple things of opening up your own fridge. You do value the things of, well, in my instance, it was just having some Wi-Fi connection so that you can at least contact family.
Yeah.
You can at least contact, I mean, you could be in South
But
Korea. Who says that you're going to have, maybe just at the hotel or wherever you're staying, but
yeah,
you're not going to be able to connect with your friends, your family,
no,
in any other way. I mean,
no.
I've watched my best friend's wedding through Skype, like,
Yeah,
through a laptop. That's unfortunately how I had to do it. So
yeah,
there's pros, but then there are also,
yeah.
the few cons.
That's
But
so
then
funny because I remember FaceTiming you several times from Starbucks
yeah,
in sort of somewhere around the
very
Mediterranean. I'd be like,
memorable.
"Where are you?" You're like, "I've just got off the ship. I've just got to a Starbucks, and
Yeah.
I'm skyping you." And I used to think, "Oh my gosh, yeah,
Well,
like that." It just,
they call it the Wi-Fi gold. Like when you're on tour, if you on the ships, or if you're doing anything where you're touring, Wi-Fi is. And I mean, if you said that 10 years ago, everyone would think you're crazy. But
yeah,
in today's age, and you have the option to still speak with your family, speak with your friends, speak just to keep that some level of sanity as well.
yeah, yeah,
Amongst the craziness of
mm,
hotels to theaters, doing the
mm,
gig, taking the photos, going back to the hotel room,
mm, mm,
generally by yourself or with one or two
mm,
other cast members.
mm.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same.
So I've got,
You need that little
I
bit
know,
of an anchor as well,
yeah. Um,
or at least for
I
me.
know you're meant to be interviewing me, but I'm going to ask you a question now,
Go
which
for it.
is, what kind of, when you were doing your career on the ships, what was the point at which you decided or you realized that you wanted to step away from that lifestyle and kind of settle yourself? Because I'm talking about my creature comforts here in London, and that's what I want to do. I want to perform in the West End so that I can keep my creature comforts and not have to give them up to go on tour. But I feel like with you moving to Budapest, in a way, you've kind of chosen to also go for a slightly more. You're still very much in the industry, but it's like you've realized that if you do this within the industry, you can keep some sense of normality, creature comforts. It's kind of.
Yeah.
So what was that journey for you?
For me, it's never really been the creature comfort. So I say the simple things of like opening your own fridge and, a particular food or spice or whatever you might like from home, or
Yeah.
it's not even that, because I did it, I think, for a fair amount of time. I got over those cravings. Like I don't, other than family, did I really miss getting in a car and driving somewhere? Not really, because I'm not doing it now,
No.
So, so the point came probably when things got serious between myself and now my wife, where I was still more than happy to be on tour and still travel. And I mean, for me at least, it beat any job at home, or
Yeah.
any job on land. So for me, it was great. You got different audiences, different nationalities. But the point probably came where we were getting a little bit more serious in my personal life, in my relationship.
Yeah.
And then I was at home, and there was an HR position
In
that,
PE.
yeah, I was in PE at this point where I was speaking about. And because I was holding South African passport, my wife is holding a Hungarian passport. Then my fiance, we still couldn't live in each other's places, because I could only be in Europe for X amount of time on my Schengen. She could only be in South Africa for X amount of time. It was a little bit
90
easy.
days.
Yeah, 90 days. But then eventually we went, okay, I was looking for something maybe corporate this side, because we were like, oh, let's shift across here. Started looking for something a little bit more corporate. Got fairly positive feedback on a few things, where I dropped the towel, but in the good way, to go, this is this is probably not what I want to be doing, or at least not right now, like something corporate. So we started our company, the Empire Entertainment, and because we knew that we didn't want to tour forever. Like, should we want to get married? We want kids, at a later stage? Those things are possible when touring, but then what? But then what? Then you go back. Okay, you've made all this money, and then you're technically still living out of a bag. Like, sure, I went. We got all our assets in. I got my assets in order and all that. But there came the point where we were like, let's just live a bit of normality, or at least get a little bit of a ground set up.
Yeah.
And should we need to go back to touring, we were quite confident that we could.
Yes.
Like the people that we've both worked with over the few years, really, really good people. Like we, didn't leave on any bad notes. I loved every company that I was with. So it was kind of that thing where we looked at each other and we went, yeah, let's try. While we still, while we still in our 20s, like, let's try set it up. And even if we are 35 and want to go back to touring, we could,
you can,
if they wanted us. So yeah, that was the decision. Do I miss touring? Does she miss touring? 100%. 100%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I miss it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I miss it a ton. But then going, like Facebook's got this, these memories that pop up. 4 years ago, you were in Bora Bora. 6 years ago, you were in India. Like, and all these memories keep popping up. Like I did like a few little segments of the world tour. So I traveled the world, and all these memories keep popping up. And it's those moments where I'm like, man, I really wish I could go back and do that again.
Yeah.
But also, on the other hand, we made this choice for a reason. Like, we made this decision for the longer term picture.
And I suppose to also get yourselves in the same place. So I suppose you've got a certain, I don't know how much longer, but you've got a certain amount of time you've got to stay there before you can get a long-term passport or long-term visa, so that you guys can set yourselves up together completely.
Sure. Look, I mean, we are pretty set up already from that perspective, but I mean, we could go live in South Africa as well. Like, there's no, we both very open with, we're not limiting ourselves really to anything. Not at least until the time comes in our lives where we decide to, have children or, so for, I mean, for me, the decision was more, I want to stay. How I started, the Empire Entertainment is a whole different story. And my reason behind that is a whole different story. But I definitely knew that I wanted to carry on with my personal career. Plus, I still wanted to create this platform to offer other people, opportunities. Because, like I said, the people that offered me the opportunities from NPE to, everyone that's, and they probably don't even know who they are, but from the unpaid work all the way to, the person who connected me with, the cruise ship, shout out Shireen,
Shireen,
to everyone, like, to my employers, to Gary at Center Stage, to I've got a lot of important people that have kind of helped me path my where I am now. And even though they probably won't know, like, I don't forget about them. Like, they, I mean, I remember the people that put me or helped me get to where I am,
to where you are.
So yeah, there's been a journey, and that time came, yeah, probably after about 4 or so years on the ship where I went, I still like touring. I still, enjoy it. Should my wife now had not come into my life, I probably would have still been doing it for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But she didn't force me to stop either, because
No.
still when we were engaged, we still did like about another 8 or 9 months together where we were still toured.
Isn't that one of the great things about cruise ships? I think most of the cruise companies are really good about if you do manage to, meet somebody and find somebody that you want to spend, time with. The cruise ships are very accommodating, from what I've heard. That's a very
double-sided sword.
Oh, really?
Some are, some aren't. It just depends on. I even know from like our point of view, we look at the relationship like, is it a very fresh one? Because probably not, because things can go south and it just creates bad chemistry amongst the cast. But if it is like someone that's been in a relationship for 3 years and, they dance amazingly or sing amazingly together or act amazingly together, then, but you're quite right. In general, most, I'll generalize, most are quite accommodating. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So
because that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist in my world.
but also, to be fair, because of the typecasting, you have to have particular looks, particular styles, and whereas if it is just a review style show, the dancers have to dance or be able to dance in these particular styles. But it's a bit more, how can I say, like, you're not going to go and do a ballet show. You're not going to go and do tap dogs, because you're not you're not a professional tapper. So yeah, with the cruising, I think there is a bit more leniency with the types of shows. But then let me just give the other side of the story. And a lot of casting directors will say that there is certain shows that are very, very particular of what they want, look, height.
Well, I mean, the Royal Caribbeans are doing full-on West End shows now, so full-on. They have to be just as specific, and then they almost have to be more specific, because those exact people that do Mamma Mia on the ship have to also do the other show, the sort of like production,
production style show,
style show. So now you've actually got to cast them as, Donna in Mamma Mia, but she also has to be able to do, some aerial, because like that's what she has to do in the other. You do, and you think to yourself, oh, now we're getting into some serious business.
Yeah. I mean, it can be, just also from my personal experience, it can be very tricky, but there is just getting from, since being now not the person on stage, but the person behind the scenes to, get everything on stage. There is a ton of talented people, a ton. Like there is no shortage of talent. Not in South Africa, not in the UK, not nowhere. There is talent. We get, I don't even want to lie to you, but sometimes we can get hundreds of applications in a day.
Sure.
And there is, I mean, the amount of talent that I've seen, I'm like, and some of these talents, then you look at the CV and they've done like some small, parts, probably amateur theater in their local, their local like charity production or something like that. And you're going, but you could be like center stage somewhere, like, that's how good you are. But maybe because they're from a smaller city, they haven't had auditions come to them. They haven't, they haven't had anyone.
I think that's one of the big things in South Africa is that if you want to do the cruising or whatever it is, you've got to go and chase those auditions down, because people don't come to Port Elizabeth to try and find singers for ships. And yet I know so many, yourself, Mandisa, Shireen, Nikki Klutter back, when she started out, she did cruise ships, Kyle Matthews, like so much talent has come from PE, but they've had to go to Cape Town or whatever for the audition, or it's you kind of almost have to be more determined, I think, if you come from somewhere where the opportunities aren't on your doorstep. You've got to like And I think in a way, sometimes that's maybe what kind of
pushed you as well.
Got me through. Yeah, got me through.
It's not just walking out of your door in New York, catching 1 or 2 metro stops, and then you're at the audition.
Yeah.
Like you literally have to put quite a bit on the line. You have to risk quite a lot for that opportunities or the opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think like I'm not sort of philosophical or what am I trying to say? I'm not. I don't believe in sort of like the crazy stuff, but I think sometimes fate is got a place in all of our lives, and I'll just say, like, there was a point before I even graduated, there was a point when I was at drama school, and obviously things were very expensive. I struggled to get a job straight away when I moved to London. And there was a time when I really, really thought that I was going to run out of money, and that within a month I was going to have to fly home, and that was going to be the end of this dream. And literally, it literally happened like it was in a film. The next morning, my mother phoned me and she said, "You know what? I've just had a call from the National Arts Council." So obviously I'd sent off an application to the National Arts Council of South Africa. But my mum phoned me, she says, you won't believe this. National Arts Council have just given you, a massive bursary. So Mount View had given me a bursary for my fees. So I wasn't paying that much for my fees, but my living expenses were they were London living expenses, and my parents were sending me South African money. Right. So it was, as much as they were helping me, I needed to be working, and eventually I did get that sorted out, and I was able to sort of work, and that kind of put me through school. But I needed that bursary from the National Arts Council, and it genuinely happened. Like I was about to phone my parents and say, "Do you know what? I think this is the end." And it happened. And then, you were asking earlier about, that point where maybe you're ready to throw in the towel. And yeah, it kind of came, and it's almost weird, because it's almost like the industry, this is like giving the industry personality, which obviously is not real, but it's like the industry wants to challenge you. It's like the industry wants to push you to the absolute end of your tether.
You break, and if you do break, can you come back?
Yeah. And then it's like, so, I think there's been 2 occasions where I've thought, I don't think I can do this any longer. And it's almost been like the week after I've had that thought process and been like, do you know what? I think this is it. The industry will be like, no, come, I've got a show for you, and you can come and do it. You think to yourself, wow, why does it have to happen that way? But it sometimes does.
Yeah. Well, I want to give a big shout out to and Richard could I think I can speak for both of us, but for all the people that not only in South Africa or in PE or wherever you might be, but those that are nurturing talent, and not only nurturing talent, but trying to help direct them into the right way while being realistic. So not going, "You amazing, my boy or my girl," but actually giving them the hard criticism or structured criticism. And then those that basically just those guiders, the guidance,
mentors,
the mentors, because I never went to drama school or singing school or anything like that. So I can't say I've got one, but over the year, and I have to give it a lot to the amateur. So all the free stuff, all the free work that I did, that was where I gained the most, I think. Even maybe not, like I said in the previous podcast, maybe not sometimes even what to do, but I learned what not to do sometimes. Like, there's this particular way you carry yourself in rehearsals, in a casting, in, the way you speak with a choreographer, musical director, whatever. But yeah, I've got to give a big shout out to all those people in the UK, in South Africa, wherever, that are nurturing talent, and they don't get recognized, or they don't get financially rewarded for nurturing this talent. But generally those people, I'm going to say those people, you know who you are out there, you're not doing it for the financial gain. You 99% of the time you're doing it because that's where your heart and your passion lies. And I'm sure, I mean, we've got mutual people that we know that do this. So yeah.
Well, I'm good. You shout out to, you gave a shout out to Shireen earlier, and I've got to give a shout out to obviously Robin.
Yeah.
Robin, because she, you know, she saw the potential in me, and she absolutely mentored me from, I think I've known Robin since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so she literally, she saw it in me, and she knew it was possible, and she knew that I wanted it that much, that that she guided me all the way. You know, she did my training for my Mountview audition, and I got into Mountview because of her. So whoop, whoop.
Big ups to Mr. Robin Williams. There's a ton. And I mean, we could go through a list, you know, of people, but of course there's, you know, whoever's watching this and is in this space, even if it is in a corporate type of business setting, you know, I'm sure everyone can just stop and think for a moment of one person that played quite an important role, even though they might not realize it. They played an important role of putting you or helping you get to the position you are in your career, in your film or your acting or your accounting. So yeah, big ups to that. So I know we've covered quite a bit throughout this time. Is there any aspirations? And it's something that I like to ask because it gives you a little bit of an open platform. You can answer or don't have to. But not goals. I like to call them aspirations. Do you have any aspirations of what you would still love to do, even if it's maybe not in your reach right now? Maybe it could be in a few years. Or let me give you another option. Is there a musical or film or something within your current industry that potentially you think you might not ever be suited for it, but it's something that you've always loved, you know, that you've always really loved to be a part of? Or do?
So the one that I feel I might not get the chance to do is Cats. It's just an absolute dream show of mine, and I think there was a time when it was kind of possible, but you never know. There are, you know, I think I focus, when I think of Cats, I think I focus on the younger characters, but there are some older characters as well. So who knows, maybe when I get older, I'll play Gus the theatre cat or something. So that's the one that's out of reach. My dream shows at the moment are Wicked and Billy Elliot. But I'm also very lucky because I've also been in my dream show, which was Warhorse, and I did it. You know what I mean? So I'm from that point of view, like I count myself very lucky that I've achieved one of my sort of all-time dreams. And then talking about like career-wise, actually,
and anywhere, let me give you another little snippet on that. It doesn't have to be in entertainment. So this could be anything. You know, you want to start, you know, your own lemon juice, or, you know, whatever. Is there anything outside of maybe the entertainment field?
Well, it's not outside of the entertainment field, but it is within the entertainment field. It's not something I've had the chance to do yet, but I would love to be, I mean, I'd love to be a director in my own right. But sort of in the interim, I think the next step for me, which is often the next step for people who've been swings, because people who've been swings and dance captains and things, they start to, when you're performing one track, one role, you just need to know what that role does. When you're being a swing, you need to know what all the roles are doing at that time. And that also applies for people who are dance captain. They need to know, they don't need to just know their choreography, they need to know everyone's choreography. And I've read a few sort of like books about it, and sometimes people who've been swings, because they start to get an eye for the bigger picture, they sometimes graduate into maybe being like a resident director or a associate director. So I think moving towards being a director is like my sort of next career path. But similarly to you, I don't think I'm done with performing yet.
No, of course not. You're slowly, I mean, knowing you'll slowly integrate them when you feel the time is right. You're not going to say.
And I think it might be to do, you know, as you've said, I think it might be to do with like just other priorities, other things becoming important. So maybe there'll be another reason. Maybe there'll be a reason that I don't want to leave London for sure, and maybe the performing jobs aren't coming my way, and maybe that's when I'll really pursue being a director. But so I know that it's something I want to do, but whether I'm ready to pursue it full time yet is kind of up in the air.
Yeah, great. Richard, I have to thank you a ton for
thank you this has been really fun.
Yeah, this has been great. And I hope that the people that are watching have, even if you're not involved in the entertainment field, I hope that you've got something out of our discussion that we've had. Because a lot of the things that we spoke about, from casting to, it can relate to corporate work, it can relate to anything really, with just when throwing in the towel, when not to, when to persevere, different challenges that we all have. But yeah, I hope Richard's story and his journey, this is only the start. I mean, I can, I know this is just the start for you. And of course I do follow your journey because we're friends.
Yeah.
And I've said this to you before, you've got a ton of talent running through your body. So
thank you.
So for sure, this will just be the tip. And once the world decides what it's doing with Brexit and this exit and this, and when I come to the UK for a decent period of time, I would like to come when you'll be on the West End. Or if you're on a touring cast,
maybe I'll be in the Hungarian production of School of Rock.
Maybe I'll be there. You probably will be in the touring one and not the local. I've seen a ton of local ones here. My understanding for the language is so. Well, it's quite good at this stage, but I've watched a ton. I watched We Will Rock You, for example, in Hungarian. Yeah, wow. Great. But there's certain songs that you just don't translate, like and I'll leave it at that.
Anyway, Jace, I want to say a big thank you to you for asking me to do this, and also say that you've also got loads of talent running through your body, because I've seen your TikToks.
Hashtag quarantine vibes.
Hashtag loving it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Look, that was something that that's not really normal day life, especially with my wife. Like, that's not something that we would have necessarily dedicated some time.
But it's brilliant. Like, it's so good. Like,
thank you so much.
This looks like so much fun.
And you're talking about talent running through the bones. That's not even my profession. That's not even vocal ability. That's
exactly that's you dancing. I always watch it and I'm like, oh, she must have coached him through that.
Yep, you're quite right. Like,
but you smash it.
I've got to try to watch the choreography slowly, because my brain, obviously, I'm not a dancer. Like, my brain doesn't tick, especially if you haven't been doing shows or whatever for a while. You catch on a little bit. It takes a bit longer to catch on to. But they 15-second clips, so I'm just like, wake up. You can you can nail it in 15 seconds. But thank you so much.
Yeah. No worries.
I appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. One last thing before we go, Richard. Those who are watching, I will put it in the description below. Once this video is up forever on the World Wide Web, on Facebook and YouTube. So for now, where can people connect with you, find you, chat to you, give you some feedback, what they thought about the conversation?
So I've had to get my phone out because I don't remember my social media logins easily. But so it's Richard_Vorster. So and Vorster is with a VOR, because I'm from South Africa. So yeah, Richard_Vorster is my Instagram and my Twitter. So you can follow me there, and if you want to send me a message, I think my DMs are open.
Slide into the DM. Great. I'll link all of that below. But for those that have watched, please give it a thumbs up. Share it, because it's going to be. I'm going to keep it online. I'm not going to remove the live thread. So share it with anyone that's in the industry, or anyone that might know us. Share it with whoever would like to watch this. And I thank you so much for your time.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been great. Okay. Cheers, everyone. We'll chat soon.
Bye.
This is Coffee and Perspective 002 with my great friend, Richard Vorster. Cheers, everyone.